Football Podcast. And of course, the dust has now settled. Mamelodi Sundowns completing La Decima. And what a story to the end of the season with Kaizer Chiefs not being able to get it done in the end. But credit must go to their opponent in Baroka, who themselves were able to pick themselves up and get something out of the game. So much so that they've staved off relegation, forcing Black Leopards, who lost, of course, to Mamelodi Sundowns, into those playoffs. Polokwane City being the other team that was automatically relegated. It was always curtains for them going into the last match day. So we're going to unpack all of this, and I have a panel that's comprised of Mr. Kelvin Sosebo. I've got Eddie Dina and Veli Limnyandu joining me on the Zoom this evening as you join us on YouTube to unpack all of this. So let's get stuck in. Eddie Dina, I'm going to start with you. Mamelodi Sundowns, BMT, all the experience coming through, mind games. You saw the coach congratulating the team above him on a good season, only for him to end up being the championship winning season. What do you make of what Peter Mosemani has been able to do in this strange and peculiar season?
Kamu, first of all, I think I deserve some sort of horn or jingles, whatever, for my predictions. Remember, Kamu, I said Sundowns will win the league. Polokwane is going to be relegated, and that's exactly what happened. But you know
I started with you.
But credit should go to Sundowns. I think even they owe it to the supporters too, because I believe that every game that they played, the supporters will give them a guard of honor going into the stadium, and then they would go somewhere, start supporting whether they win or lose. They never stopped cheering for their team. I think also for the players and the management, it also motivates them. Like, listen, we're playing, we're losing, but we still have supporters out there. So let's play our heart out. And they never gave up. And boom, come end of the season, they're the champions. And also, Pizzo in mind games. I mean, everybody knows Pizzo. Pizzo is that coach that would congratulate the other teams, but knowing that it's a mind game, the players, they know that our coach is like that. They'll always keep focus. They will never lose anything. So credit should go to Sundowns and the management for winning the league.
And I mean, you see a player like Gulebogang Maboris Davesh coming in that last game and giving us a performance where you see, okay, you know what, you might not have had the best of seasons from a personal standpoint, but professionalism till the very end with a hat trick that was just clawing away at that goal difference and them just going about their job as professionals, not really taking into consideration what was happening on the other side, where, as you felt with maybe the Chiefs game, maybe those players had kind of started hearing what's happening with the Mamelodi Sundowns and Black Leopards, but the Brazilians, total professionals until the end.
Okay. Go ahead, Billy.
Look, Kamza, we are talking about a team here which was defending its league title. They had won the last 2 league titles. And if you remember how it happened, even last season, when Orlando Pirates were held to a draw by Cape Town City, and they had to go to the last day and Sundowns had to do the job. They had a game in hand and they won their game in hand, and they had to then maintain being on top, and they did that. You don't want to go with Sundowns to the last game or the last 2 games, even on points, even if you have a slight advantage. If you are to clinch the league title, playing against Sundowns, you do what Stuart Baxter did. Do it with a game to spare. Gavin Hunt did it as well, especially for an inexperienced coach like Ernst Middendorp when it comes to a league title race, because he was going for his first league title, ever since he started coaching, So I would say for me, as much as, yes, the league title was won on the last day, but I don't think Kaizer Chiefs lost this league title on that last day. You check the record between the 2 teams in the bubble. And just the other day, I was looking at what Sundowns had been, okay, the Chiefs' record in the second round. I think it reads 5 wins, 6 losses, 5 draws. You know, I think there's one that I'm not mixing, but so, and also you check in the bubble, the last 6 matches. So that's when, and we spoke to Coach Peter this morning, you know, and he's also talking about this. He says the Chiefs form in the bubble. That's when they could see that, they are having challenges. And yes, Sundowns also lost to Cape Town City. They also lost to Baroka, but they were picking up some wins. You know, they were picking up some wins, and this is where the difference was. But also, maybe let's go back, even outside the bubble. Just before lockdown, Sundowns, they had their form, and they were going to play Pirates. And that's when they were going to close the gap, because they were having the momentum coming back from the Champions League. You know, they were going to close the gap down to a point. And things could have been different even way back then. But I remember the other day I spoke to Coach Thabo Sidong, and it was just before we resumed. And he said, you know, he thinks that Sundowns could struggle because Sundowns generally are slow starters. But even when Sundowns was struggling to find their rhythm, I remember in one post-match conference, even Coach Piso said, we are struggling, guys. You know, we are struggling. But Chiefs was nowhere, you know. So as much as, yes, I know we want to discuss the last day, and we know that Baroka are a stubborn team. You know, they're a stubborn team. Yes, they lost 4-1 to SuperSport before this game, but they lost a player very early in the first half. You know, and when they lost Ngubane, they were already, I think it was 1-1 at that time. In fact, they had scored first through evidence. So for me, yes, Sundowns was superior, and they were superior because you could see also when the quality comes up at the right time. I mean, if for me there's a goal which describes the superiority of Sundowns, and when you have top quality players, which is something Chiefs cannot compare to what Sundowns has. Even if some of them like Mabu were not on form, but the secondary assist for the first goal comes from Serino. The assist comes from Shishi. You know, and then the finish comes from Mabu. It's having quality players delivering when it mattered most. I mean, it only took them 19 minutes. 19 minutes for the first time this season. They were on top, and that's what matters.
So see, I mean, you know, Veli makes a point that maybe the decline didn't happen on the last day in full. But, you know, you think to yourself, when Chiefs lose that game against the Wits, then they see Sundowns get beaten by Baroka. At that stage, surely there must be something where you're thinking, okay, we dodged a bullet there. Our coach said a disastrous result after his post-match. He didn't know what was going to happen with Mamelodi Sundowns. They lose as well. That, coupled with the fact that there's just another game that pretty much on the last day of the season against the very team that beat the team they're title contenders with. Like, if all of that doesn't go into your head and bring out the best performance of your life, what will?
Yeah, I will agree with most of the points that Viril is making. They're absolutely spot on. I think with Sundowns pedigree, we all can see the superiority in them, the way that they're playing, and the way they pick up. As Pito has always mentioned, that it's very, very important these CAF Champions League games that they're playing. It builds into their mentality and into their players. They know that they are champions, and they've been on that scenario before. So going to games like this where you leave it to the last minute, I think Velile is actually right on that, because you can't go toe to toe with Sundowns. With the bulk of squad that they have, it's quality after quality after quality. It's just about them being placed in the right time. And I think with Pito's experience, it comes handy, whereby he knows which players are actually going to fill in the void and be able to get results. Within the side of Chiefs, there's it's not much that could be said, because if you see the dynamics of the club has changed immensely because from where they were and where Middledorf came in, there was a drop in performance and chemistry from the coaches, the coaching staff to the players. And then when you start having that, this is when now it comes in as other coaches will actually see and assess and say, okay, what is actually happening on other on Chiefs camp or the contenders of the league. Then when they know that there's something that's happening on their side, it gives them a motive to say, okay, if they are dismantled in this way, it actually opens up cracks for them to actually to drop it. So I think I'll commend Pito on this one for actually pushing to the last minute and also willing their players, because there's been so much criticism that why Pito is signing each and every player. But I think his plan now is coming to fruition, and we all can vividly see.
Yeah, it does make the side a scary prospect moving forward in terms of some of the names that they have signed and those they are still linked with, likes of which including the joint top goal scorer Peter Shalulile. I'll take this moment to welcome Shoaib Walters to our discussion. Shoaib, before we go anywhere, Eddie wants you to give him props for his predictions.
Oh, Eddie, yeah, I have to
Hey,
congratulate Eddie.
congratulations, Eddie.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Hopping on
Congrats.
now.
Thank you. Thank
Hopping
you.
on the
Thank
bandwagon.
you.
Got it, boy. We got it, boy. Yes, we got it, boy.
Yeah, he got it spot on because I remember him saying Polokwane was
No,
going to be
offline,
relegated.
Shoaib. We got it. Offline, we
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
No. The relegation one, we all got it.
Yeah,
It's
that
the
was
Yeah.
champions.
How Velile, give us something. How? Yeah, we all got it.
But yeah, Shoaib, I mean, we're just touching on, of course, this photo finish end to the season and perhaps, get your thoughts on it. Guys discussing that the decline for Kaiser Chiefs probably came before that last match. And there was a certain, I guess, disharmony that you would find. There's more harmony in the Sundowns squad, but amongst the Chiefs players, just not being able to, as a collective, work it out until the very end. You can say whatever you want about the coach and the kind of football you're playing, but as professionals, you had one game really just to kind of cement your place in history for a club, especially after a season when people said this team shouldn't have been nowhere near the title.
Yeah, you see, for me, I think that is where Sundowns superiority came in, with a sense of the amount of quality that they have in the squad. When Sundowns was off form, losing to Cape Town City in the first couple of games in the bubble, you could see it was just off form. There wasn't any other obstacles that they had. Chiefs had players off form. They had the team itself that was separated. You had the coach that was on his own, the team that was own. So all of those factors, I think, comes into bringing a decline in the performances. At the end of the day, Sundowns, we always knew, have the quality to win games, even if they're off form, even if one player is off form, they will always have. I always believe that when you're playing a football match, if you have 3 or 4 players off form, you're going to have a bad game. But with Sundowns, obviously, with the quality they have, even on the bench, when they bring them on and they performing, and that is why you could see it against Leopards on the last day, that they were eventually going to score. Everybody was saying within the first 5 minutes, we know that Sundowns are going to score. The worrying game was the Chiefs Baraka game because of the way Chiefs has been playing, and the coach maintain with a similar lineup all the time, and the players that are off form, and also the separation in the camp. So there was a lot of factors that I feel that played a role in that. And when I come to Sosi's point is, I mean, if you look at Chiefs ending of last season at 9th point, it's a massive improvement. 9th position from last season. It's a massive improvement. Yes, they were title contenders right at the beginning. The first 10 games, the first 13 games, sitting on well over 30 points. So in that sense, they painted a picture that we are title contenders. The way they ended the season, it's a team that we think that would potentially have fought for top 8. And that was the sad thing for me, the way they started. And I always maintained I wanted them to win because of the way they started. But unfortunately, Sundowns' quality, you can't You can't let them in. Yes, they let them in with wits, and they didn't take it, but you can't give them a bite at the cherry too many times. And that was the unfortunate part for Chiefs.
Okay, and then in terms of players who've kind of, taken the responsibility of getting things done, I mean, you can't make this discussion without Themba Zwane being in it, Eddie. I mean, in terms of, the goal haul, he's in the mix amongst the top goal scorers, and he's not even an out-and-out attacker, playing in a very fluid front line for Mamelodi Sundowns. But surely, if you're looking at a player of the season for the Brazilians, he has to be the top nominee.
Definitely, I think he's one of those the best midfielders so far in South Africa. I think he can create, he can create goals, he can score goals, and he can make the team play. So once we have a midfielder like that, that's why even Velele was saying that if he can take back Kama to Sundowns, he'll be a star because he get the likes of Zwane that can give him those passes. Kama, you need to understand the type of players that you're playing with. So I think Kama understands that Zwane, if he has the ball, this is exactly what's going to happen. So players like Themba Zwane, I think should be given the thumbs up, and I think he deserves to be the footballer of the season.
Okay, and then Velile, on the side of Kaizer Chiefs, obviously Nukovic has been quite the revelation. Whatever coach comes in there to Kaizer Chiefs will be starting with a good piece of the puzzle. I mean, no one expected him to come in and do what he's done. He's someone that you can build a team around. What do you do to make sure you get the most out of Akama Billiat, who, we've said this season brought in on big money, one of the top earners at Kaizer Chiefs, but his performances don't really correlate with what he earns. And so you wonder, is it just a case of bringing in a coach to unlock him, or have we seen the best of, or is there only one coach who can unlock him, and is that Krokop?
I think, to be fair to Kama Billiat, you must look in his first season when he arrived, and it was Solinas at the time, and how he kind of rekindled the partnership that he had with Castro at Sundowns. In fact, if you remember, at some stage, there was a time where even Solinas ended up bowing in front of him, saying Kama Billiat is his Messi, and the type of football they were playing at the time. It's a pity that all around, Solinas, maybe it was just lacking too much quality, but Kama was playing his football at that time. And if you go and consult the stats, you will see that Kama became the first Chiefs player, I think since the departure of Norwich Mosona, to finish on double figures that season in terms of goals and also the assists. But Kama's problems started when Middendorp arrived, and things have been different ever since then. It's well documented that the boy at the end of last season wanted to leave the club, and not only him, Castro now was also giving Chiefs problems to renew because he wanted assurance that Middendorp is not going to be there the following season. So these are some of the things that you also have to take into consideration. But look, if you look at the difference between this season and last season for Middendorp, it's the arrival of Nukovic. He had this target man that he had now and to play his football. And unfortunately, as much as Nukovic has been good for Chiefs and he kept them in the game, because I think Nukovic's goals, crucial goals, have kept Chiefs in the race. I mean, you go look at the hat-trick he scored against Celtic in December, as Celtic were continuing to come back, But without Nukovic or without the aerial strength, what was Chiefs' game this season? For me, if there are two games in this bubble, which also proved how one-dimensional Chiefs has been, and I'm struggling. I don't know. I'm still to be convinced because you see, Stuart Baxter's team was not really one-dimensional. Stuart Baxter's team, they will beat you with their aerial balls, set pieces, but also in counter-attacks, they were also strong in counter-attacks, So this Chiefs team, if you look at the game against Celtic, yes, they dominate Celtic, but Celtic has got a plan for them with aerial balls in the second half, and Chiefs was done. They were finished. And this is what Baroka also did this weekend. So yes, Lukovic has been key, but the new coach that would come for Chiefs, surely, yes, Lukovic will be a strength because, I mean, teams were struggling with him in the first round, even in the second round, but now there should not be over-reliance on him, You've got the likes of Kamas, you've got the Dumsane Zumas, also play, interplay. I mean, there were moments where Chiefs would be 4v2 or 3v2, but still that ball will have to go wide and be crossed, and you lose the advantage that you had. So for me, these are the things that come to consideration. But I know you wanted us to talk about Nukovic. I mean, for me, he's been the reason that Chiefs were there on top till the last day. But right. I also want to talk about Mshishi, because last week on Twitter, I put up Mshishi's name. I said, here's a serious contender. Hey, people were eating me alive. People were eating me alive.
On what basis? What were they saying? Why
they were saying, no, Mshishi is not consistent. But I mean, show me one attacking midfielder. Show me one attacking midfielder who's reached double targets. In fact, double digits in the last few seasons. I haven't seen one. 11 goals, 8 assists. I mean, and also speaking to most people, especially people in the game, and even here now, it's Mshishi. I mean, look, maybe before this bubble, we had Manyama, who was also a serious contender.
Right.
But
right.
in terms of the returns, an attacking midfielder, 11 goals. It's for the first time in many seasons in the PSL.
That's very impressive. We've got a question here from one of our viewers on YouTube. And gents, you can just kind of put your hands up as to who might want to venture a guess with this. But maybe you, Sosi, because this might ring a little close to home. What are your thoughts on Bobby Motaung sabotaging Ernst? Ernst built a team last season. Bobby failed to secure X-Team to stay. Again, Ernst built a team this season. Bobby fails to keep George Malulega. The reason I bring up that point about George is because Chiefs lost their way the time George was negotiating his contract.
Can I take that one up? Sorry, Kelvin. But Kelvin can come in.
Okay. Yeah, I know, it's fine.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to say it's Bobby who's sabotaging him, because Bobby actually is the reason Ernst stayed this season.
Right.
Because I know that people at the club wanted Ernst gone at the end of last season when he lost the Nedbank Cup.
Yeah.
And also at the beginning of the season, if you remember, there was talk of that Ernst has been given 5 matches. If he doesn't do well in the first few matches, uzohamba kaya, But to the contrary, Ernst was delivering the results. If you remember, at some stage, even Ernst said it himself that some people wanted him gone. He doesn't have a lot of friends, even inside. And Bobby was there. In fact, he's been there throughout the season for him at Chiefs, and I think and until the recent weeks. Where for me, I think the challenge has been, and this is where the Kaizer Chiefs management should equally take the blame. Their last 2 coaching appointments. I mean, really, You look at when they appointed Solinas to replace Steve. We know that big teams when it comes to replacing coaches.
Yes.
Big teams, they do those things 4 months, 6 months prior. You know about the new coach maybe with 2 months before the season. The last time Chiefs did that was with the appointment of Stuart Baxter. Stuart Baxter even came here to replace VV, and he watched the last 2 matches. If you remember, they were even playing. There was a game against Ajax in Polokwane. They won that game, and that's what you expect from a big team. That was like 7 years ago. Solinas was appointed when the team was only about a week away or 2 weeks away from starting the new season. He didn't even have preseason with them. And then after firing Solinas, they went to fetch Ernst from Thailand. where he was a TT from Thailand, you know, and the idea at the time, I understand it was that he was just going to be there to finish the season and then they'll look for another coach, you know.
Right.
So the Chiefs management here is equally to blame, you know, and maybe yes, because to discuss Chiefs it will take the whole day. So
No, for
I
sure.
don't,
No,
yeah,
for
it,
sure.
it will take the whole day. But here, this is a time when remember the club has also been releasing statements after statements to say there's going to be an overhaul and things are going to change, but nothing's changing.
Mm.
So clearly, the authors of the statements have to look at themselves now.
For sure, and they've gone to ground. No sort of communication from them, Sosie. I mean, you just, their last tweet was at the weekend. It's as if the club ceased to exist after the result. Nothing from them. No apology to the fans. But let's talk about this misunderstood relationship between Ernst and Bobby. If people are calling for Ernst's head and he goes, does it figure that Bobby must also go?
No. I think maybe Ernst is a little bit emotional on this case because, as Velile stated, he was actually assisted by Bobby to actually to have the opportunity that he's got. And if I can go back when I was still at Chiefs as a youngster, he didn't actually do much back then. So I
Right.
was actually shocked, even the way he left to join Marisbeck. I think at that time, if I'm not mistaken. I think the way he left as well from that stage, it wasn't convincingly because he was not the type of coach that Chiefs were looking for. And I think after that, it was just immediately after Ted Dumitro, if I'm not mistaken. Chiefs were that's where they won the treble and they were winning teams. So when he got in on board, it changed the whole dynamic of the team and Chiefs started dropping from there on. That's why he was let go. So him saying that there's a sabotage from Bobby or there's an internal affairs. I think
It's
that
not
is
him
for
who's
him.
saying that. It's one of the viewers. But yeah, I hear your point. Just to clarify, it's
Yeah,
not
yes,
Ernst saying that. Yes, yeah.
yes. No, I understand that. I'm just saying also him because his statement also echoes that. When someone says there's a lot of people that don't like you, what does he mean when he says that?
Well,
So
maybe it's other
it's
people besides Bobby. I don't know. Maybe Bobby is actually the only person who likes him.
no, it can't be. Then Bobby's not the one who's playing. Bobby's not the one that is playing. He's supposed to actually to rekindle the soldiers that are going to fight for him. So players, when you have a discourse in players and you have players that are actually not fighting for the common cause or the common objective, meaning that whatever that you are your plans into how the team shape needs to be. If it's not well understood, I don't think you're going to get any result from any player because if you can see the way, like the last time I was telling you, in contrast to Sundowns, when Sundowns actually have the floating strikers, the reason why I said that is because if you look at Sundowns and Chiefs when it comes to transition, when teams are actually defending from attacking. So as soon as when they attack and then they lose the ball, what you normally see is you normally see their number 9. You see Sereno dropping into the middle to actually to shut down the counter attack. And on their offensive play, you have your wingers who are staying wide to actually to isolate the fullbacks. And that's where now Mushishi comes in with the late runs. And then the reason he's scoring Mushishi and he scored so many goals like he did was because of the assist that he's got actually from the wing play. Because once the wingers, the fullbacks are isolated, that's when you find Mushishi sneaking in. That's why he was scoring his goals very nice and easy because of the way that they are playing. So patterning that was difficult for team to actually to understand because they use speed and also to drift balls from coming from behind.
Something they do at training, eh?
Shoaib,
Yeah.
let's talk to the future now because there's a lot of murmurs as to Chiefs now obviously looking for a new coach. Gavin Hunt kind of being mooted as a possible replacement in terms of style, in terms of we know his pedigree. But is there going to be anything different in terms of the approach to the game and being as pragmatic, looking for results as what we saw with Ernst?
Yeah, you see, that is my argument. My argument was as look, it might be like I said, it might be biased for me to come in because I'm an admirer of Middendorp. I like his philosophy to a certain degree, but what I don't like of him as a coach is he doesn't look at the personnel that he has and try to work out a strategy or a way of play with the personnel. He will be stubborn in the way that he wants to play. And then you have to adapt. And I think that is the most important, or that's the biggest reason why you come up billiards them and Castro them maybe can't, because it's either his way or it's the highway. When it comes to Gavin Hunt, I think it's going to be something similar. Certain players will also, because I know from players that I've spoken to at Wits and why they couldn't survive at Wits, because there were some midfielders that were saying at training, you just see the ball goes from the goalkeeper to the striker and then it's back and it's forth and then what? You understand? So what if you're sitting with a situation like that at Kaizer Chiefs, and now then the supporters are going to be on your back again? Right. At the end of the day, when it comes back to Valile's point was Baxter transition. He was excellent. Yes, they were excellent transition. Set pieces, they were brilliant, because even when I played against them, our team talk was, if you can stop set pieces and you can stop them from transition, you can win the game. But most of the time you couldn't, because they perfected it. And another example is, and it's a small example, you look at Thierry Henry when he played in the early 2000s. Everybody knew, and every team knew, he would come in from their left-hand side, in between the opposition's right back and centre back. In that hole, he would turn and take them on. Yet nobody could stop him. So at the end of the day, for me, is yes, we knew that Chiefs are one-dimensional with aerial balls, but you can vary it to a certain degree as well. And maybe that is where they had a lack. Chiefs with Baxter had some phenomenal initiative players, your Shabas, your Parkers, that could take initiative. Maybe they felt at that time they were given that freedom. With Middendorp, you probably weren't given that freedom, which I know I played under him. You weren't. So for me, to answer the question about Gavin Hunt, he's going to prove me wrong if he goes there and actually does well. Then I will be proven wrong, because I don't see it. Yeah. Unless he's also transformed into more modern day football, and being also having a bit of a variety. So to answer that question for you.
Okay, well, let's see what he does, because that'll be interesting to see if he adapts to what he has, or like you say, like Ernst tries to get the team to adapt to.
If it's him who goes there.
Okay?
If it's him who goes there.
If it's him.
Yeah.
We can only deal with hypotheticals at this point in time. Let's move on to Orlando Pirates, Eddie.
Because I wanted to touch on this.
Which part?
I know that the people on Twitter have been really pushing today, and even people that I know around have been pushing that Kevin Hunt must go to Chiefs, Yeah. And but is that the feeling within the club, or are there people who are opposed to Kevin Hunt, and why are they opposed to Kevin Hunt? I mean, there was I think now recently during the lockdown, or just before the lockdown, there was an article. In fact, there was an interview where the chairman of Chiefs was answering questions on the 50th birthday from the fans, and where he was talking about the coaches, and he singled out Peter Mosimane and Kevin Hunt, and it was not for the first time. He had done this thing previously, of singling them out. And I think now it's a matter of public. It's something that's out there publicly that Chiefs was going very strongly for Peter Mosimane before Sundowns renewed his contract.
Right.
And I think it's also something that's out there as well, that there's been talks between Stuart Baxter, in fact, Kevin Hunt and Kaizer Chiefs, but you constantly hear that there are people who are opposed to it internally,
so really? For what reasons are they opposed to it? Is it the same?
Well, I don't know what are the reasons. I don't know what are the reasons.
Your source needs source here.
Yeah, but and also this is something that has also now brought Orlando Pirates into the picture, because I think also from Gavin's side, I mean, he's a top coach. If you are serious about a coach and you know that the coach that you have now is going, secure that coach so that that coach can start to plan. Let's say on Wednesday, the transfer ban appeal at CAS is not successful.
Right.
Surely that is screaming that Kaizer Chiefs should get a local coach who understands the current squad, because you have no choice. You have to continue to work with the current squad.
But maybe that's his condition. Maybe that's what he's saying, is that, listen, guys, let's see how your appeal goes, and then we can talk. I'm not coming to struggle.
I don't think that's his condition. I don't think that's because
If
you see,
they banned?
when you are in this type of a situation, you must think on the spot. I know that, yes, it's not easy because they've got a coach who still has a contract and with a year to run.
Yeah.
But when you're in this kind of a situation, you don't think twice, because there are vultures out there. This is how Chiefs lost out on big name coaches to replace Steve Kompella, because they were dilly-dallying,
Right.
and this is how they lose out even on players.
Sorry, Valili. Sorry, Valili. So is Ernest Middendorp officially resigned or has left the club?
No, it's
Probably the statement is coming out on Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Hey,
Sorry,
this is the Chiefs, man.
It's back to dinner time. Back to dinner time.
No. So, Valili, what
No,
you must
Vanilla can
understand is-
take on from there. I was just giving my 2 cents there. That was it. I don't have 5 friends, just 2 cents.
That's a scoop. What are you saying, Shoaib?
No. I'm asking, has it been? Is it official already that Middendorp has resigned, or because, like you're saying now, he has a year contract? I know there's players that are not happy with him, and I'm not too sure about management.
I know. I can tell you, management, and I think even the big man. I don't think he's been a favorite. That's why I was saying to the viewer or the listener who was saying Bobby Middendorp. I mean, the reason that Middendorp even finished the season was because of Bobby.
Okay.
There's an ally in him now.
Yeah.
Does Chief fire play? I mean, coaches or what?
If you look at, it was for the first time in many years. The Chiefs terminated a contract of a coach within 5 months when they fired Solinas. Even if you remember when people were complaining when there was nothing happening in terms of silverware under Coach Steve, the chairman, he kept Steve.
He kept faith with him. Kept
Yes,
going.
until his contract finished. In fact, Kelvin would know this. After after Ted Dimitri came Middendorp, and as much as there were challenges under him, he stayed for 2 years, duration of his contract. Okay, he left when results were not coming, and then came Muhsin Echibra, for the second stint. Also, Muhsin, yes, he was winning trophies but couldn't win the league. But also, at the end of his term, he left. Then came VV. Also, he finished his 3 years at Chiefs. Then he left. Then came Baxter. Yes, Baxter won two league titles, but also he served the full duration of his contract. Then he left. Then came Steve. Then Steve also served the full duration of his contract, 3 years. Then he left. So even with this one, even though there were all this talk last season that they were not happy with him, that they were going to go, but look, he's still here.
Yeah, I don't think he survives another season.
So they are not there are clubs where
No, that's why I was asking Vanilla, because if it's their culture that even if the coach is bad, they have to finish their contracts. As you said, that's why they end up losing on other good coaches, because they would want to sit and say, okay, listen, let him just finish the 1 year that is left on his contract. Yet there's another good coach who's out there, who's ready, who's waiting, and then comes another team, and then they can just snatch him. But I think it's coming to the next question, where Camo wants to bring in, and then I can then just edit on it there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and this is how they also lose on good talent when it comes to players. They dilly-dally too much, and clubs, they come and take them. Before going for Solinas, they had a chance to get Hossam Badri, the coach who was coaching Egypt today. He was former coach of Al Ahly, and they lost out to Pyramids because Pyramids took him as a chairman. Then they had an opportunity on Patrice Cateron as well. He was coaching Zamalek today, one of the top coaches on the continent. And this dilly-dallying again. And look, I'm not saying they are going to lose out on Kevin now, but if they take too long, and there are no options. Chiefs used to introduce good coaches locally, but that's not the case anymore. But that's why I was saying, I don't want to, because the problems that Chiefs are too much, man. Structurally, footballing wise.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk because there's a solution that was brought in at Orlando Pirates in the form of Joseph Sinbauer, which for me is also quite strange to hear now. Gavin been mentioned as someone to go to Pirates. Eddie, I mean, JZ surely has earned himself a crack at a full season and a full campaign after doing what he's done by leading this team to third place.
Yeah, I think, considering that he came in when they had 11 players and 11 new players that had been signed, and also that the coaches that were there before him. I mean, look, it's very difficult, Kamu, to bring in 11 players and then make them gel and start winning games from the very beginning. I think it will take time. It showed again that when he took over from where Pirates were, and then the players started, playing well, and although there were some patches that they were playing bad, but I think he did well. He did actually well. I mean, to finish in the third position, considering where he took the team. But knowing Pirates, he is going to resign. And then also that I heard that Gavin Hunt, they also target Gavin Hunt to be their coach. So, Pirates is the team that they don't fire coaches. Apparently, the coaches they resign, and then they bring the other coach that they
Are they threatening Eddie to resign or
no,
resign?
No. They are not threatening. No, they just
Really?
given,
Okay.
They just nudged in the right direction to resign, Eddie.
Oh, that's a threat. You are nudging me. That's
No,
a threat.
it's not
It's a nudge.
It's actually very good, good gesture for them, because what they do is they bring you a letter for you to sign, to say, okay, you signed, and then now it reads, Jay-Z, I've decided that I need to resign, I need to go.
So he's not even going to type his own letter, Eddie.
Eh?
He's not even going to type his own letter.
No. all you need to do is just sign it, and then that's it. Whatever that is in the letter, it doesn't have to do with you. So I think Kevin, I think hey?
Oh, we're still talking about football. This sounds very clandestine, and just sign here if you don't want any trouble. It sounds.
That's why I was asking Kamo, what nudge are we talking about?
This is Orlando Pirates. But the good thing about them is that once there's a good coach that is available for players that are available, they quickly snatch them. So I think Gavin Hunt, I see myself, 99%. I see myself Gavin Hunt going to Orlando Pirates.
Wow.
In fact, just a one-liner to add on what he's saying. I'm told that Gavin got this call that said, don't commit to anyone else till end of the season. We're coming for you, black and white. Others are still dilly-dallying. Black and white is going to come.
Exactly.
Breaking news. I'm telling you.
Hey, Shraib, what does this mean? This is the Wild West out here. I mean, Jay-Z, would have thought that he's got himself a job still. Obviously, you can argue that if he leaves or resigns, he'll get paid out. He'll go back to Germany. He'll carry on with his life. But, you would think there was going to be a sense of continuity. And I was excited to see what he's going to do next season, considering how he's got the ball he's playing. It's a bit, it sounds a bit like this tale.
Yeah, that yes, comes look to be honest, it's a surprise to me. You 37.17 games. You're sitting with 10 wins, 5 draws. You're contending for the league. You scored 21 goals. You only conceded 9. Your goal difference is good. If anything by it should be true, then for me it's all that. As what is wanted on top at the end of the day now, because then it was just immaterial of what was going to happen this season. We knew the purchase of TTM over Birdfest. They weren't gonna take on Gavin Hunt. So I want this coach now. It would be very unfortunate for the team, because I've always believed, and a lot of coaches will agree, that it takes 3 to 6 months for a certain philosophy of the previous coach to be out of the team, to get out of the team. So now you have Gavin Hunt coming in. It's going to take them another 4 or 5 months to get into Gavin's style. So now you're sitting again with 10, 12, 14 games where you're bouncing up and down with your points because you want to get into the philosophy of the new coach. So then it puts pressure on the coach. Yeah. So for me, and anybody, and even the Pirate supporters, I'm sure themselves, journalists, everybody would say, we're excited. Who are you most excited to see play football next season? As Cape Town City first and Orlando Pirates second, because those are the 2 teams that his philosophy has come in. Their football identity is there, and you're excited to see a full season with those 2 teams, because for me it was under Jay-Z, Cape Town City and Orlando Pirates, under Jay-Z, and Cape Town City under I would say top 5 for those teams. So it's going to be unfortunate, but you know what? We've seen more unpredictable things that happen than this. So you know what? Yeah, let me put it this way: we've seen more bizarre things happen in our local football before. So it's not really going to be anything new, to put it to you that way.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting, because obviously I don't know what that does for the coach that leaves, Stavage. I mean, are we going to have another merry-go-round situation where you have Jay-Z maybe go, I don't know, Chiefs have to be very careful about their next appointment. I don't want to say there, but of course you might have TS Galaxy suddenly become a top flight team next season. There might be some other vacancies around the league. How do you see this merry-go-round going now if Galaxy...
Yeah, look.
Maybe even Jay-Z going to Kaiser Chiefs. You never know.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No.
You'll
go to Galaxy. You go to Galaxy. Yeah, that one I can bet on that one.
Oh,
what
wow.
are you saying?
Bet. So
what
see what you know.
What are you saying?
I'm telling. I think that'll be a good one to place him at the TX Galaxy, because the chairman and the team are close, so you should know what.
Remember, Dance was fired in the first division, but now this is the Premiership. What if this is also the return of Dance?
See, that makes more sense to me.
The dynamics of the 2 leagues are different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't think Dan will go to TTM? I think Dan will go to TTM.
I think OTG is going to TTM.
Sorry, who?
OTG.
OTG.
Yes.
If Highlands Park is sold, then I think, then I will agree with you. ODG will go to TTM.
I can tell you now, Shoaib, that deal is done.
Oh, okay.
Is that deal done?
And
what about the minority? What about the minority stakeholder that's opposing the whole sale?
The minority are also saying
it.
Oh wow!
Which is a 20%. Yeah.
It doesn't count. Preference.
Minority. When you're a minority, we can leave you out and say, "Oh no, we'll deal with you. Let's put it through."
We'll give you your here's your cut. Hey. It's harsh, but it's true. It's harsh, but it's true. Okay.
But so that's how I see it happening, because even ODG, he did say that he was approached by TTM, you know, and now with all these latest happenings, I mean, the Mvala and Shanulile going to Sundowns, it tells us that the deal is done. You know, the club is gone. ODG will go this side, and also this side if TS Galaxy and their project, because I can tell you right now that even the first division status has returned to Cape Town, where it came from, Cape Town All Stars. You know,
Yeah.
so those are done. So in terms of the coaching changes, yes, but now there's hand where he seems to be he's dividing Soweto at this time, but people who are serious and who have their intentions clear, as we've said, it's Paris. And you know, when Paris, when they want a player, you saw even with Hoto and even with Tyson, when they want a player, they go for the player. You know, and that's one of the reasons why even with Tyson now, Tyson apparently is going to be one of the highest paid players in the league, if not the highest. You know.
Wow.
No. Okay, guys. Before
Troy is saying something, but I think he's muted himself.
No, so sorry for Lily. Apologies.
Okay.
But when you said now Orlando Pirates, when they want the player, they'll make an effort to go for it. I think you maybe need to emphasize and just say they actually just take the player.
Well, you being a former respect player, you know the story.
Yeah.
They don't ask Schrabe, they just take.
No, yeah, you just take at that time, and they also same like Eddie will say, the contract is just presented to you and you just sign it. No negotiations, no nothing. You know what? Here's what you will be earning. Don't ask. This is what you'll be getting.
No,
So I'm sure
the same.
like that.
You know,
The same could be said.
Shaibi,
The same could be
Shaibi,
said when
you actually right, Shaibu. You know, I remember when I went to Pirates, when I was sitting with the Duke himself, you know, you bring a paper, an A4 paper, and then you will pick it up and then you read it. You pretend as if he's reading it, and you say, "Okay, I know what you're aiming at Ajax. Okay, no, not bad, not bad." And then he puts it down. So what happened is that, and then he got a call. So he had to take the call outside. So when he left, and then I went and then I picked up the paper. It was a blank paper, blank. There was nothing in it. Like now you're thinking, so now you can't ask for more because he knows what you're getting at Ajax. So now you'll be like, you're scared to say, okay, if you're earning 20,000, now you can't say 100 because it's too much.
Yeah.
So they can play with you. I mean, it's a mind game. Yeah. So you end up signing it because, okay, from 20, okay, we give you 50. Oh, a huge difference of 30,000. Okay, let me sign it. Sign, that's it. But absolutely, there was nothing in there.
Wow. Huh.
the same can be said, Kamo, if I can just come in there just for 2 seconds. When I was at Maritzburg, when Paul Rashete and Mohale were signed to Pirates, they didn't actually know that they were going to Pirates, but the contract was already signed. So they only spoke to us in the training field that finally this deal has went through. But I asked him, did you speak to your agent? What happened there? How do you know that you're going to Pirates? He said, I haven't signed it, but I saw on Sokala Tuma that I'm going to Pirates. Then I was like, how does that happen? They said, I don't know, but already I'm going to Orlando Pirates. This is my last game. I'm leaving, guys.
Yeah, that's
football for you. Dundee football, gents. Now, obviously, the top coach usually goes to the one that wins the league season. But in terms of other candidates for, you know, if we had to have a best of the rest, who would you say is your candidate for a coach who's really impacted their team, and made sure that, you know, whether it be, you know, Dylan Kerr saving Baroka from the drop, or Jan Older Rickering finally getting them to play like his side? Jay-Z that we've mentioned. Who outside of the winning league coach is your other coach candidate of the season?
For me, I think it's Ricky Ring. I think I've stated before, as a tactical coach and as a coach that has actually asked the team for more patience on him. I think he knew what he had and the type of players that he had on his squad, what they can actually do and what they can deliver. And with the patience coming from management as well and players getting together to understand the coach in terms of how they want to, he wants them to play. Because most of the players, if you can look at the Cape Town City players, they are enjoying their football because it's simple, fast movement going forward, and that's why you see the players like Aborulani, they're coming in with the previous coach, they will come in as an impact player, but now they are more of like a core of the team. So I will actually praise the coach, and I think he has done a tremendous job to actually to put Cape Town City on a beautiful spot.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's yeah, when you talk about coach of the season or candidates, you have to look at the whole season. And unfortunately, Cape Town City's coach hasn't been there the full season. Yes, we've seen now what he has done, but a full season is your full 30 games. And I like to look at my full 30. And I think Eric Tinkler did really well with him up until the bubble. The bubble, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different this season to try and manage or to try and look at who your candidates are, because the bubble has played a big role. And you look, I'm not saying Steve Compella should be in there, but even Golden Arrows themselves, from 8th position dropping to 11, 12 position now. You look at I also look at Caetano. I think he deserves also credit. I would actually put him as a candidate for super sports coach. He's done extremely well, well balanced, always in there and thereabout. Yeah, and I think with me it would be obviously Pizzo, Caetano, and Eric Tinkler.
Kevin as well. Why are you leaving him out?
No, because Gavin is consistent. He's consistently always third, fourth position. He did really well under the circumstances. But I think coaches that have made impacts on their team, Gavin has been consistently there. So he hasn't done much better than what he's done the previous years. Caetano did a lot.
The reason why I'm throwing, sorry, Deshwat, the reason why I'm throwing this because you have to look at the dynamics that were playing at Wits. For another coach with the consistent that you're talking about, could they actually have the same breadth and as knowing that the team is already solved?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and that's why I'm saying you're absolutely right, and that's why I'm saying this year will be a little bit different because we had the pandemic, we had the bubble, so you have to look at different aspects, and yeah, for you take the bubble and how he's motivated them after the purchase of TTM. I look at throughout the year, and also because of the bubble, Maritzburg drop points. According to Inside Campus over there, they knew they were guaranteed the top 8 position. So the mentality of their players was basically like a holiday for them. So that is why they've dropped.
So isn't Pirates then should be going for a coach like Kevin, since he's a consistent coach, because they want to be consistent as Sundowns are.
But they also want to play. But they also want the brand of football.
Kelvin, which podcast are you listening to?
But for me, when you have a coach in the previous season who had finished outside the top 8 at number 9, and he finishes second, even though for 379 days he was at the top, I think maybe Ernst needs to be there in the head, in the top 3. But also, you see, remember when this award was debated years ago, and as journalists were voting at the time, and the discussion was, how do you reward a coach who has not won the league title, and you leave the coach who's won the league title out, and it's not, you have someone who's going to be the coach of the season, and that person is not the coach, is not the one who's won the league.
Sure.
So I don't know if that discussion is there, but if you look at I know that maybe in the first few years and that's when the likes of Gavin, even Roger Disa previously have won this award. But if you look in the last 10 years, a coach who wins the league wins this award. But
that's why I said outside of that, we already know that usually it's the coach who wins the league. So I'm saying outside of that, we're not even saying that this person stands a chance.
I understand that because there has to be a top three, and for me, this is where I agree with Shoaib. It's just unfortunate that Super Sport going to their last game, they lost because this was
they were contending.
Yes,
they were contending for the quarter.
Yes, and this was going to be their highest finish since Gavin Hunt left. Because they've never finished higher than the fourth or higher than the fifth position. So for them to be in the top four, it's something that has not happened in a very long time. And going to the last, and remember, in this bubble, they had this good record without Dean Furman. Somebody who's been the driving force in that Super Sport team for the past few seasons, and including the first round of this season. Lockdown, messed them up as well. But I would have Pito, I would have Caetano, I would have Ernst.
Okay. I must say, I'm a bit surprised that you threw Ernst in there, but you're right. I mean, on merit.
I think on merit, yes.
On merit, he has to be in the conversation.
Yes, on merit, yes.
Look, Valili, my question to the journalists are always, Sundowns are always trailing games. So if you're saying now, yes, Kaizer Chiefs has been on top of the log for 379 days, but they're always trailing in games. So wouldn't it be easier to gauge when they are always on par with their games? Do you understand? Because they're always 2-3 games behind whoever's top of the log. So because at the end of the day, whoever wins the league, like now, Sundowns won the league. They won more games than what Chiefs did. You understand? So it's the same. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's just that things have been slightly different this season, Shoaib, and especially now in the bubble. There was a time when Sundowns was dropping points, and at some stage when they were equal, but still, Chiefs was faltering. And now this is where you could also see the difference between the quality between the two sides, because there was a time now where you could say, you know what, these teams are level now. In fact, even in December, at some stage, the gap was huge, and there was a difference of only 1 or 2 matches. So it's been different to the previous seasons. Maybe if you look at the tussle between Pirates and Sundowns in the past 2 seasons, that was different because it was issue of the matches. Sundowns was away, and then when they come and they play their game, they are 2 points up. But this season, especially now in the bubble, not once, not twice, more than that, Chiefs had an opportunity to even extend the gap. And Coach Pizzo consistently said, guys were struggling, but you know what? He was competing against himself.
Yeah.
Sure. We will not go into on the chances were. Gents, before we bounce just very quickly, Ajax Cape Town, we spoke about them last week in terms of them using their experience to maybe get over the line in winning the Glad Africa Championship. They didn't do that. It seems like they then went back and started including the likes of Elazar in the mix, as we were speaking about on the show, just using that experience now to get off to a hot start in the playoff cycle, winning against TTM rather convincingly, and then now having a game against Black Leopards in which they trying to make sure that they can be the team to come up. Shoaib, I mean, this is a team that you know well. In terms of how they've started, do you see that they, maybe have just woken up a little bit as to the opportunity at hand?
No, I think they've also come to realize now that they need the experience to go in. I mean, they were sitting on about 12 to 14 not clear-cut chances, but final third entries within the first 15 minutes of that game. And they were showing their intent. And then you get somebody like Elazar Rogers with all his experience, 1 goal, 1 assist. But the good thing is, and what I liked about it is that they started off with the experience, and the new recruits and the younger players came on and actually won the game for them. Sonwa, which I know, he was with us last year, in and out of the squad. He scored the second goal, and then you have Keegan Johannes, which I think is going to be a phenomenal fullback for the future. He's only 18 years old, and he got and scored the winner, and he always gets into those good opportunities for goal scoring opportunities as a fullback. So I think they found the rhythm. The little bit concerning part was that they, after scoring, they then conceded 2 quick succession goals, which against Leopards you might not be able to come back. I mean, with TTM, yes, the second goal, I don't know if you guys watched it, but I mean, the second goal, the goalkeeper, the shot was taken down the middle of the goals, but the goalkeeper was on the one pole, towards the one pole. He left the whole goals open. So, with TTM, you have Leopards. Leopards is going to punish you. So my only fear is for Ajax, as much as they've won, goal difference might play a part in going for obviously getting promoted, because you have Leopards now. If you get a draw against Leopards, Leopards I think will be TTM, and then it's again touch and go, for the final couple of games.
Eddie, I mean, how do you see this one if you're Black Leopards? You're coming in with all your PSL experience, all your top guns. Usually these situations tend to favor the team from the top flights that plays in this mix. Do you feel that's going to be the situation this time around?
Yeah, I think having watched the game Ajax when they played TTM, Ajax were not convincing. I mean, conceding goals like that, and you want to gain promotion to the PSL. If you play like that, you get punished. So I don't see them coming with a win against Black Leopards. I think it's a wounded animal. They want to go back to PSL, and they're going to come guns blazing. I think Black Leopards, I would say it now, Black Leopards is going to go back to PSL.
And really, where do we start?
Just to touch on that, what Eddie's saying, just one liner. Yeah, I wasn't myself convinced with Ajax Cape Town's goalkeeper over the weekend as well. I think India really needs to up his game for being an experienced player in their team. They're really gonna need him to up his game against Black Leopards.
Okay, Velile, do you think we'll ever see 2 up, 2 down?
Not anytime soon. No.
Why not? I'm always wondering, a lot of people, it seems to be a popular idea. Who's the ones against it, and what's the justification for it?
Because if you follow the PSL, the NSL handbook, you will know that first division teams, when it comes to votes, are disadvantaged there, So if these are things that have to be voted in, they will never have their take.
Is it like having 20%?
Yeah, because when it comes to votes,
minority.
A PSL club vote, I think, is 3 or 4 times the vote of a club from the division below. Maybe if it happens in years to come that they've got TV rights of their own outside the main league, then look, things could be different. Because look, as much as this playoff thing is exciting, but maybe it should be a playoff between teams from the lower division, And I also think that another thing another thing which makes it tricky is that we've got 16 teams. If maybe we had 18 teams and they have a playoff, then things would be different, So and it makes sense that we must call for 2 down, 2 up. But
Right,
here we
yeah.
are now, you know.
Mm.
But if you also followed the story, the team which finished 15th, they struggled. They struggle against these teams. Yes, you look at Baroka, they retain their status, but I don't recall Leopards going for playoffs and returning. When Leopards has gone for playoffs, they don't come back. Because also, remember, the team has been losing. You know, they have been losing, so they don't have the momentum. The spirit is not high, and the teams in the first division, they want to come up. You know,
Bonuses will play a major role too for the Black Leopards.
Leopards, yeah. But also, this is where for me the experience on the bench also has to count.
Sure.
And they've got very inexperienced coaches who've just came in now as caretaker coaches. So I think that is another factor as well. But I think as Shoaib was also saying, this first game, they must get a point from that game against Ajax. They must get a point from that game. Because also, I'm not sure about the hunger of the TTM players. Because most of those players, they know that they're going to play in the big league. You know,
Exactly.
No, but it's not guaranteed. It's not. I think for TTM, I think for TTM, it's a case of not playing to get promotion. I think they are just playing because they need to be selected to be in the PSL. Because not everybody is gonna play there. Because now remember they also gonna,
but also
yes, they also gonna want experienced players too. So if you look at the team.
But from the press conference we had today, with the outgoing Vets management, looks like there's quite a number of players who are not keen to relocate.
I can imagine.
Same thing I said. Same thing I said about Leopards.
Yes, there's quite a number.
I said about Leopards. Should they go down?
Yes, there's quite a number of players who are not keen to relocate. So it might not be a foregone conclusion for them that they're going to get most of the players who are at Vets. You know, and if you look at what the NSL handbook says, you cannot force a player to relocate. You know, and obviously those who don't want to relocate are those who are already having options. In terms of, remember, there's a team here in Gauteng which has just been promoted as well. You know, and some players are in Gauteng. You know, so all these things they tie in. But look, for me, I think I'm very clear about. I would like to see Ajax coming back. You know, I would really like to see Ajax coming back.
I'll second that one.
Yeah, when you know, Shoaib was talking about this boy, Kigen Johannes. I saw the boy. I've been following him at the under 23. You know, he went to the AFCON not as a first choice right back, but
yeah,
you know, I mean, this is a boy who's going to the Olympics. And I know that there are even some Gauteng teams which are already looking at him. You know, you look at it's a pity that the injury has also messed up Apetego Masietlaga when it matters most. You know.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, you can see that. Yes, they are playing him now, but he's not 100% fit. You know.
Sure.
But the experience of Eliazar Rogers, you saw him this past weekend, not just with the goal, but also giving TTM problems up front, the assist, you know. So I think that's one thing Calvin Malin managed to do well this past weekend. His substitution was spot on.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that these two teams, they were struggling with aerial balls. You know, defensively, Ajax was non-existent. You know.
Yes. Come to process. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I just hope that things can go well for them, because I was worried about their spirit. You know, after missing out. In fact, what happened in the Great Africa is exactly what also happened in the PSL. A team which had been leading, overtaken at the last moment. You know? Yeah. But when it comes to this one, you could see Leopards were also missing Musonda on Sunday. They were just toothless up front on Sunday. And then he returns now. And the defense I was complaining about of Ajax, how they handle Musonda on Wednesday. I'm interested also in that one. But be that as it may, I hope the Urban Warriors do this.
Time will tell. We'll know fully well by the 21st of September. We might even know well before then, depending on the results. But that's when the last game in those playoffs is happening. Gents, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been a long and robust session. We've been beaming out on YouTube. Thank you to you who's been tuned in. We will reconvene again to look ahead. Maybe by then, we will have heard by the second placed club who have just been so quiet since not being able to win the championship. Let's see. Maybe no news is good news, and it'll be big news when they do decide to finally speak. But Sosi, Shwaib, Velile, Eddie, thank you so much for joining me this evening, and to you two who's been watching. With some help from Fidel, who's in the background, I appreciate him too and his contribution. Until then, let's have a good week, folks. We'll catch up in a week's time.